What's going on, gamers? I watched a good portion of Digital Foundry's Nintendo Switch 2 coverage recently, and I'm glad I did because I learned some stuff obviously I didn't know. So I'm going to make a good video about it, and then we're going to talk about this issue right here that people are talking about. Now, I've done handheld mode a few times, and it's been fine with me, but I haven't done enough to where it's like I've ran, a couple hundred tests like crazy or anything like that. No, it's just like 30 minutes on and off here and there, you know what I mean? Raining heavy and I'm out doing things, yeah, just on and off. But here we see one of the main criticisms of the Switch 2 right now, this is coming from Oliver, is the ghosting motion blur in the screen. Now I'm mainly docked, by the way. You can see it right now. I mean, I'm docked. And I don't do handheld unless I need to, but I actually like it a lot better because it feels more closer to a tablet than it does, a handheld compared to the Switch 1, and it's just way better to me from what I experienced. But this is an issue that I want to dive into. Like I told you, if stuff comes up and I realize this is something unique, because this is only in the Nintendo world. And people have to use this. Definitely in Japan, it's a main thing. And I want to see what they're talking about here. We're going to get into this. So like, come subscribe. Here we go. So like I said, one of the main criticisms of the Switch 2 screen right now is the ghost and motion blur in the screen. Some people say they don't notice it, and then there's some people that I guess maybe after this it probably, and then there's some people say they do. It's pretty noticeable due to the type of panel used. It could be fixed via a firmware update by overdriving the LCD, but that would lower battery life. Have you noticed it? Interesting. This is him slowing it down, and you're seeing the ghosting right there. Now, of course, you're not going to play anything and see something like that, but it's interesting. This is some stuff people are looking for. This guy says, yes, absolutely. It makes me really not like using this in handheld mode. Then this guy says, I seriously haven't noticed this. And I talked to a lot of people. Nobody said they've had this experience. But I find it interesting that this is coming up. So I'm like, okay, let's just look into it. Personally, for me, it's not affecting my experience. And I tell people I do Nintendo content. You know what I mean? Definitely with the beef that I have with what's his face. I went on his stream for an hour, even said, I would even play Gears if I was going to get it from somebody because I didn't feel like pre-ordering it. And like I said, we talked, everything's cool. But getting back to this, because I'm mature like that, and I let people know too, like that comment was a reply of somebody consistently trying to get me to cover the key cards when I said I'm not doing that because to me that's hypocritical when I've been promoting Xbox and bashing PlayStation users. So stop asking me that. And everybody kept on asking me that in that channel. But if you guys go take a look at the video, you'll see that it's when I replied to that comment of not necessarily games. So I don't have a problem with them. As you see, you'll find that out in that video. But we clarified everything anyways. Like I said, that's just entertainment. It's not real life. I'm not gonna go try to bully nobody or do nothing like that over a video game. I'm not 12, or still in high school. You know what I mean? But yeah, people kept on asking me, "Oh, why aren't you covering keycards?" I'm like, Nintendo's the only one preserving physical. I'm not saying I agree with the keycard situation. It could have been to where they would be allowed to pick what size of the key card they wanted, but they just made one 64. Yeah, could everything fit on there? But they probably could have made a 32. Maybe that would have been better. But outside of that, they're still preserving physical though. PC never preserves physical. You're not going to get that there. You know what I mean? Xbox doesn't preserve physical. PlayStation has it to the extent of third party to what you want, but first party wise, yeah, they're the only ones that preserve it. So to me, I'm like, no, I'm not covering that because that's hypocritical, and it's way worse over there. So that's where I went passionate and went off on those people, and that was for people in that comment and everyone else. That's what that was. But some people took that way more serious. It's just kind of like a WWE expression, like you know what I mean. I'm an intense, fiery, passionate being. But getting back to this subject, though, now we're done with that. This guy says, I thought I was going crazy. It's noticeable right off the bat when I first turned it on. I'm going to have to look for this and try something to see what this is. So in the video, this is where we see it. This is the coverage that Digital Foundry had done, by the way. So let's get ready to see what it's about.
Let's move on to, well, another part of the hardware setup, which we've got to discuss. It's been pretty much the most controversial element within Digital Foundry. And I think we're kind of accepting now. We've gone through denial, we're now in acceptance that the screen just isn't particularly good overall. And when you're dealing with a handheld, I mean, that's fundamentally one of the key parts you've got to get right. Going into this, I mean, there are certain things that obviously it does right. Well, I'd say it does right. There are feature points that we want: VRR, 120 hertz, HDR. But on pretty much all of those points, I think there have been issues that are compromising to the experience. John, you're particularly upset by this.
Well, disappointed is more like it. So
Okay.
there's fundamentally several key issues with this. Some, and there's been a lot of discussion around this as well. So I want to share my thoughts on each of these. The big one, I think, is response time. Essentially, when dealing with LCDs, there's two things that you have to look out for with.
I know what he's talking about, the LCD panels and response times. OLEDs can suffer from that a little bit, but not mainly. And as a matter of fact, there is a setting that makes sure you keep this on for the Switch. This is why I'm glad they worked with NVIDIA, because they can work with them to continue to remedy this issue. So if people are worried about it, which, I can understand if you're a handheld user heavy, definitely like in Japan, there's a setting. You won't see this on other consoles because they're not NVIDIA. So it's going to be... By the way, I recommend doing full range. Right here, ALLM. People on PC know what this is. Changes the TV to low latency mode, game mode when supported. Guys, always make sure this is on because you do need that. And there's a reason why they work with NVIDIA to do that. And they're going to have to continue to fix that and do firmware updates. So I also recommend doing this over that one because it does it for when it's needed to and make sure your stuff is adjusted. Depending on what type of TV you have. That's a whole nother subject. That's annoying too. So that's what I kind of wanted to add in with that. But outside of that, yeah, even then, people are still finding some stuff then. I haven't ran into anything, honest to God. You guys know I'm not going to lie to you. But I thought I should do this. You know what I mean? Why not? It's not going to affect my Nintendo Switch performance. That's why I don't understand why people talk about I'm not covering something. Like, if I do, you act like it's going to affect my Switch performance. It's not. I'm still going to have a good time with my game, so it's not a big deal. I don't care.
Blur on a flat panel
I just
display.
mainly do PS5
There's
content
persistence
and
blur caused
Xbox.
by the sample and hold nature of the panel, which is that it's not clearing. It's not like clearing the screen after each line. It's like drawing the frame is drawn, that frame is held until the next frame is drawn. And due to the way our eyes work, that actually causes sort of a blur in motion. All flat panels basically suffer from this by default, OLED included.
Okay.
But LCDs also have to worry about the response time of the pixels and like gray to gray, black on white, different, the transition speed from which one pixel that is on screen is able to disappear from the screen. Slower response time means that you sort of get these like ghost images, pixels left behind, which creates the sensation of blur. Anybody that picked up an original PSP 1000 will certainly remember what that looks like when it's quite bad. But also,
Okay, interesting. Yeah, but like I said, I've never experienced that. But I don't play in handheld mode that much. And I'm also on my monitor too, which is an NVIDIA monitor, syncing with the NVIDIA technology. Have on G-Sync, all of that with LM. So maybe that's probably why I don't think about that. But I'm gonna try handheld mode a little bit more just to see what they're talking about because, like I said, that's never happened to me. But I have been mainly playing platformers, maybe indie. So I gotta check out something to see what that would happen.
also things like the Game Boy Advance AGS 101, the coveted backlit screen, compared to the front lit and non-lit Game Boy Advance, the motion clarity is dreadful. But as systems improved, as LCDs improved, we saw response times generally increase. And
Mm-hmm.
they're not amazing, but I think LCD technology has reached a point where motion is generally okay. And of course, you can do strobing and whatnot as well, which of course Nintendo is not going to touch due to fear of
No.
flicker, I'm sure. The problem with Switch 2 is that the response time of the pixels, or at least the way it's being driven, is not adequate. And as a result, you actually do see a lot of sort of trails blur on things. So if you're playing, say, a side-scrolling 2D platform game, like imagine you're
But that's weird. When I'm doing that, it's super smooth across my screen. Like when I scroll across my icons and the eShop and everything is good. It's kind of weird.
playing Sonic on there, Sonic Mania. You get this checkerboard field.
I
You've got a
own
lot
that
of
game.
contrasting colors.
You know what, guys? I'm gonna try that. You know me, I keep it real over here. So, where is? I'm gonna need to download this and see what they're talking about because I can go do the test myself, and I'm going to later on. But going all the way down. Wait, no, not here. Virtual game cards. Some of my games won't pop up because I had physical copies. But where's my Sonic Man? It's one of the first games I purchased. Right here. Yeah. We're gonna get to this. I'm just going to go ahead and load this, and I want to see what he's talking about, and I'm going to test it for y'all too, so that I could see myself too, because I really want to know what the hell this is. This definitely matters, for sure. So let's go ahead and go back to this. That's going to be downloading in the background.
As it
And
moves,
damn, these
the
games.
image essentially leaves behind. If you film at, say, 240 frames per second for like a slow motion video, you essentially get 4 individual ghost images of everything on the screen. Your eyes perceive this as blur.
Interesting.
It's actually slower than the original Switch 1 LCD from 2017. This is what surprised me the most, because
What?
the nature of modern LCDs, I'm genuinely confused as to how this is the case. It shouldn't be that much worse, but it is. And as a result, it means that 2D games, especially, or anything with a lot of lateral motion, just kind of smears in a messy way. And so I had some theories. My first thought was that, oh, maybe it's doing 60 hertz in a 120 hertz container. But that really, on a sample and hold display, that shouldn't cause that much extra blur. It only becomes an issue if you're on a low persistence display.
How do I get
so I don't
this?
think it's that. What I think instead is happening is just there's a possibility that they're not performing any sort of overdrive on the image, right? So there's like a technique like LCD overdrive that can be used to sort of adjust sort of the extra response time of the pixels. Actually, I'm not entirely sure how that works, to be honest. I have
Guys, I'm trying to figure out how do I get that to work like that on my screen, because that doesn't happen to me. Plenty of other people I've talked to before I made this video, nobody's experiencing this. It's weird. I'm trying to figure out, like, is that like a defect, or you know what I mean? And like I said, I downloaded Sodomania. I showed you guys that on my screen. You didn't see it doing that. I even went to all those games and I scrolled down back and forth, up and down, and I'm like, I'm not experiencing that. That's weird, man.
haven't looked into that, but
Let me know too, you guys that don't Switch too. Just give it a try.
help. And there are other devices such as Apple's iPad, the mini LED iPad.
Because for me, if this is a thing, obviously I want to help the industry get it resolved. That's why I did that right there in front of you guys. You guys try it too. Because there's places like Japan, they do handheld big time. I would like to hear and see what they have to say, because I haven't heard anything from them saying that. All of them saying they're having a good time. So this is some interesting stuff here. I'm trying to figure out if this is a problem. Wouldn't everybody be having that and be saying it? Because yeah, it's just I don't know, it's a little bit weird to me.
That's, for instance, some of the older iPad screens, they do not perform any sort of overdrive, and they have noticeably more blur in motion than a lot of other LCDs tended to.
I hate blur,
and
so I would say something.
There's things with overdrive, if you go too far, it actually causes...
Like anything, y'all, on God, that's motion blur, I turn it off. I hate it. I cannot stand motion blur. It just does not resonate with me. So if I was playing handheld mode, I would definitely, I would not like that. I would never touch it then. And I'm going to let you guys know about that, because like I said, I played Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I played Mario Kart World. I played New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. I think it was, no, not Splatoon. Another game, but I got to test more in handheld mode for you guys. The only thing I don't like about handheld mode is that I have a certain setup with my computer, so I'm using this headset so that I can use this through the OBS to give my Switch sound. So it's like I'm having the premium PC, this HyperX Cloud right here. You know, the HyperX Cloud series are really good. Really good battery life too. I have that hooked up with my OBS so that I can do everything with surround sound and on the monitor with my Switch, and it's just an ultimate experience. That's what I want. Like I wasn't testing it to that extent, but it's just some interesting stuff here with this.
Sort of like a reverse ghost image effect. So
overshoot.
Overshoot, right? So it requires some sort of adjustment. But I think that as a result of that, if they implemented some sort of firmware-based overdrive into the Switch 2, they could potentially improve the motion clarity issue.
Well, if they know about this is why I like Digital Foundry. If this is a known issue, which I don't see why they would lie. I just want to find out how the hell they're seeing it, because I've never ran into that. Then yeah, Nintendo should be working, like I said, with NVIDIA right now, or they could just probably do it themselves and get that situation fixed via a firmware update, just like they can add in VRR for docked and 4K 120 in a firmware update, like Sony did it. They're going to do it. Just watch. And that could be really good for like cartoony indie games and Nintendo graphic games and backwards compatibility, older games, you know what I mean, for stuff like that. Because you're still going to just be upscaling. It's not necessarily about native 4K 120 with Switch technology. Like, come on, man. No, that's not what we're thinking about. We're thinking about like the DLSS shortcut with that. So, but
So I do have a
VRR.
little bit of hope. But right
Would
now,
that impact battery life, though?
what's that?
Would that impact battery life?
Frankly, it doesn't matter. It shouldn't impact it much.
Yeah, but there was somebody saying that it would. So yeah, we got to be careful about the type of information we take in about this because we want to get everything right here so we can resolve this situation. So yeah, that is interesting if it does though. I don't know if it does or not. It hasn't been clarified by Nintendo. I can't say that and haven't done any tests, so I'm not going to do that. I don't like making up stuff.
But it doesn't matter because what good is extra battery life if the actual
experience
experience
sucks.
isn't very great?
Yeah.
Right? I
Right.
would say the screen isn't good enough. It's so bad that for anything side scrolling that's like Switch 1 still, I would much rather play on the Switch OLED than the Switch 2. And that's not
I have a lot of side scrollers. I love them. You know what I mean? So I'm going to be downloading some more then, and we're going to be testing that tonight, y'all.
a situation I expected to occur. So that is
Yeah.
problem one. And that's the worst problem for me. The other problem I would say next up is HDR or lack thereof. I think we've talked about this a
Okay, I'm going to agree with them on this. It pisses me off. And we weren't told that we needed, what was this one setting? You guys, it's called something that allows you to get the HDR for the Switch with the 2.1. If you don't have this setting on your TV, and I think this is after displays from either 2019 or 20, because my TV was 18, but I'm going to upgrade eventually, but I'm kind of waiting. But I do have upgraded monitors, 4K and all that. Yeah, if you don't have that setting, it's going to be impossible to configure the HDR because you know what? Yeah, let's do this because this is actually really an annoying issue. I don't like it, and I really wish their system would have been more simple, like Microsoft and Sony's when it comes to HDR. So, for example, let me show you guys an example. Oh, do I not have on? Oh, here it is. Okay. Shit. If your TV does not support this, both of them could be like black, and every time you're trying to fade it out, I'm not messing with this, and people know what I mean, how effing annoying it is. It's going to be impossible to get it the way you want it to work. It's going to feel like a nightmare. No matter what you do, both of those will be faded out that color and they're going to just keep fading out like that. And you feel like something is wrong with your TV. No, it's not that. Your TV needs a certain setting. I forgot the name of it. Guys in the comments, leave it in the video, but look into it. What setting do I need for HDR on Switch? So that one Asian guy that has that one channel, he's awesome. You guys know what I'm talking about. He explains everything. And I'm sorry, I forgot the name. But like I said, if you have a display after at least 2020 and after, you're going to be fine. But you have to balance it. Otherwise, the colors will be a bit off. HDR is good, but you have to make it get to this point. Otherwise, it's just complicated. It's not as simple as other systems. And like I said, I kind of find it annoying. I've never talked about that before, but since they brought it up, it actually just reminded me of something. You know what I mean? So I'm like, wait, you know what? Yeah, let's talk about this because that's annoying. And hopefully they can make that more simple in the future. Let's go back.
a little bit. The screen tops out at just over 400 nits, which is far too low for an HDR presentation. It is not capable of doing bright enough highlights or anything like that, let alone full field. It's an LCD. It should be able to drive itself much brighter, of course, at the expense of battery life. But it could.
But they may be talking about the handheld too. HDR on docked is actually fine for me. I haven't experienced it. And as a matter of fact, I also have another palette for my my Asus setup, to where I could do like a it has its own color system. For example, let me show you guys what I mean. If I went to display settings over here, right, and this is the monitor that I'm using for my Switch, the Asus, and then we got LG. There's a color profile that you could use instead of HDR. And then when you go into the Switch setting, you're going to do full ranged color, and all those colors will display with the panel without the need for HDR. and it looks just as good. It's just that you have to make sure you set it right, because for some reason trying to do HDR in here can be a little bit annoying compared to this color profile that I have custom set up myself. It actually works really good. The colors look really good. I mean, you see that with this background of Donkey Kong right here. Look how great that looks. Looks nice. If I turn on HDR, that would just look bad because you would have to like mess around with it. So that's another option for y'all if it sucks, just to help people out. I should probably do a video about that. There's some things I did want to do about the system. I just haven't got to get to it yet.
Could still be okay enough if they actually had a backlight that was designed to allow this, but they're using a single sort of all-encompassing backlight rather than sort of dimming zones, because the whole thing about HDR is you need to be able to control the individual pixels and the brightness of them. So if you have like a star field, you want space to be pitch black, you want a star to appear bright white. But if they're all sharing the same backlight, how do you do that? You really can't, right? You got to ramp up that overall brightness, and then the black becomes washed out while the star's bright, or vice versa. So you're not really getting an HDR presentation on here right now, which I was kind of hoping we would actually see.
Oof.
So that's another bummer. So those are the two main issues that I have with it, really. And you know, there's a couple other complaints I might throw out there as far as it being an LCD, right? I'm not an LCD fan, everyone knows. But I will say, if I compare motion clarity to the Switch 1, I will at least say that it is a big improvement over Switch 1, the original Switch 1 LCD, in terms of color reproduction, even though it does fall very much on the cooler spectrum. You don't get warm color temperature. It's very cool, but it is more colorful. Yeah. It's more vibrant, and the screen material itself, due to the way it's fused to the glass, I guess, it actually appears black. So when the screen is off, it's just a black looking image. Physically, whereas the original Switch had a very gray, washed out looking screen, like whether it was on or not. Like if light touched that screen, it was gray looking, which was very, very bad for contrast. That's not an issue here. So like at a glance, you know, it looks brighter, it looks more colorful, it doesn't have that issue. You would actually think it's significantly better.
That's how I feel. Now, these issues he's talking about, I feel like we have to look for this, and that nobody really notices that. But it is something to put out like this with all these views so that they could go and fix it. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, because we're trying to improve as much as possible. And like I said, if you feel like there's no issues, then how are you going to improve? So this is a good video, and to talk about the HDR and the HDR issue doc, so I can help people with that, because I'm telling you, it's annoying if you don't know what the hell's going on and about the setting that you need to even do it. They don't tell you any of that. They should. I'm like, what do you guys? You should be telling people about that. They don't tell them about the ALLM, how you get backwards compatibility CPU boost for games that run like crap. Now, max out at 30, or if they're uncapped, they go to 60. And games that, like, for example, I was like trying some Warriors game, and it needed dynamic resolution to keep 60. Like it would go from like maybe like what 800p to like 500p or something, right? Maybe 480p. But it could stay at the 800 or 900p and be at 60 because of that, and get faster loading. So like there's a lot of futures where I'm like, Nintendo, what are you doing? Talk about all this stuff. They don't say anything though. So that's why we have stuff like this, and we need content creators to get the right information out there to people. So this is an issue that definitely needs to be resolved. If it's something that's affecting a lot of users. And like I said, once again, let me know what you guys think about this, and if this is affecting you and your Switch 2 right now, if you play a lot of handhelds. Digital Foundry, though, outside of this, are loving it. There's, like I said right here, satisfying upgrade, but I didn't want to talk about that. We're going to do a separate video for that. First, we want to get the issues out the way, and then we're going to get to the good news. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about this. All right, y'all. Peace out. If there's any more issues that pop up that are new like this, that are specific to the console, that is in that world, that is not hypocritical, yeah, guys, I'm telling you, I'll cover it. So yeah, this is interesting. Like I said, I'm going to do some more tests, and I'll let you guys know what I think. All right, y'all. Peace out. Have a great day.